Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Saraswati Gaur Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we're going to continue our talking about the exceptional qualities of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Mahraj, a dear friend of mine and a dear devotee to many or most everyone that he ever met. And today I want to focus more on why did he use the title An Ocean of Mercy for the book that he wrote about Srila Prabhupada. So, there are some interesting points that I wanted to talk about. And first point is a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote on March 5th, 1973, to a person called Shriman Hariprasad Bhadruka. It's somebody that he knew, and was a friend of his. And Prabhupada says, but the thing is, without Indian devotees, rural preaching cannot be effective. They are mostly illiterate. How they will understand? We must avoid the risk of a separatist movement. Unity is our purpose. Just like in London, where the Indians are starting their own Hindu temple, their own Hindu Radha Krishna temple, we want to avoid skin disease. And the Indian people are like the tannery expert. Tannery, that's the person who's dealing in skins to make shoes and other things. Such a cobbler is expert at skin disease. They will see our Sankirtan party and think it is a white dance. Anyway, how to gather Indian devotees? That program is wanting. I shall be going to Mayapur by the 15th, remaining there up to the 22nd. I hope to see you soon, and I hope this meets you and your family members in good health. Hare Krishna. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So here's a letter written in 1973. And Prabhupada is saying that without Indian devotees, rural preaching cannot be effective. Why? Because most of the people, he's saying, in rural areas, they're mostly illiterate. And then he says something shocking. He says, we must avoid the risk of a separatist movement. Unity is our purpose. So, in 1973, Prabhupada's already talking about what's called a separatist movement. If you look at history of India since the partition and then independence, you'll see that usually Hindus have this tendency of breaking into little or breaking into separate organizations. You have the divide between followers of Shiva and followers of Krishna. That goes back a long, long way in history, even back to the time when the followers of Lord Shiva, after the death of Sati, and due to the cruel treatment that that was given to her husband Shiva, she wanted to end her relationship with her father Daksha, and at that time, Lord Shiva and his followers attacked Daksha and brahmanas, and Lord Shiva, of course, cut off the head of Daksha and devastated the heavenly planets in a sense. And later on, different personalities eventually convinced Shiva to forgive Daksha. And of course, Shiva agreed, but he refastened or put back the head of Daksha, but not his original head. He put back the head of a donkey on Daksha. Anyway, we see that from that time on, there's been this sort of split between the followers of Lord Shiva and followers of Lord Vishnu. And the followers of Lord Vishnu were headed by, celestial brahmanas. Okay, so going down throughout history, especially, like I said, after the independence, the Hindus generally break up into different groups, and they are not what you would call unified. So Prabhupada is saying, we must avoid the risk of a separatist movement. Unity is our purpose, just like in London, where the Indians are starting their own Hindu Radha Krishna temple. We want to avoid skin disease, and the Indian people are like tannery expert. Such a cobbler is expert at skin disease. They will see our Sankirtan party and think it is a white dance. Anyway, how to gather Indian devotees, that program is wanting. So now we see, and fast forward, and in 1975, 1976, when Bhakti Charu Mahraj was fortunate enough, he was looking for a guru, and he traveled around India and was disappointed. But eventually, he came across devotees in India, and he was able to come in contact with Prabhupada. So, Prabhupada quickly recognized the exceptional qualities of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, even though he was a relatively very young Indian-bodied potential devotee. And very, very quickly, Prabhupada took him under his protection and began to train him. So Bhakti Charu Maharaj says, after the Bhagavatam class that day, Bhavananda Maharaj told me, Srila Prabhupada is going to leave Kumbh Mela tonight. Yes, I replied, I heard. But I was shocked by what he said next. A small group of devotees will be traveling with him, and you have been included in the team. I could not believe my ears. I was so excited and happy. I practically started to dance. The thought that I would be traveling on the same train with Srila Prabhupada made me feel like the most fortunate person in the world. All I could do was thank Maharaja again and again. We left that night in a first-class carriage hooked on to a train bound for Calcutta. The entire car was for Srila Prabhupada and his entourage, 14 devotees, of whom I was one. Hundreds of devotees came to the station to see Prabhupada off, waving and offering obeisances. I stood at the carriage door, waving back, relishing my good fortune. Once the train started, we all took rest. The next morning after bathing, I was chanting in my compartment when Bhavananda Maharaj came in and said, "Come, I'll take you to Srila Prabhupada." I had been dying to meet Prabhupada ever since arriving in Mayapur, but now, as Maharaja presented me with the immediate opportunity, I felt unqualified. I was afraid that he would look right through me into my heart and see all the dirt, all the sinful activities that I had committed. He would reject me, refuse to give me his shelter. I had heard that there were devotees who had been waiting for years to be initiated by him, but had not yet been accepted. Bhavananda seemed to know exactly what I was feeling. He just grabbed my hand, dragged me along the corridor, opened Prabhupada's door, and pushed me in. Inside, I fell flat on the floor, offering my obeisances. When I got up, Srila Prabhupada was looking at me, smiling sweetly, and asked me to sit next to him. On the seat facing him were Jaipataka Swami, Rameshwara Maharaj, and Bhavananda. Abhirama Dasa, the Calcutta temple president, was sitting on the floor. I hesitated to accept Prabhupada's offer, saying that I too would sit on the floor, but he insisted, "No, you sit here." So I folded a corner of the blanket spread over the seat and sat on its very edge. Then, after some initial exchanges, Srila Prabhupada gave me a direct instruction: "You translate my books into Bengali." My heart was jumping with joy, but I was uncertain. "Srila Prabhupada," I said, "I do not really have experience in translating from English to Bengali. Will I be able to do it properly?" "Just do it," he assured me. "Practice makes a man perfect." When I left the room, I had to pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I couldn't believe my good fortune. At our very first meeting, Srila Prabhupada had given me this incredible service. I knew that he considered the publication and distribution of his books to be of the utmost importance, and I had heard that because many of them had also been presented in Bengali by our previous acharyas, he was especially particular about their Bengali translations. I just kept on praying to Krishna that I could fulfill my responsibility and execute his instructions properly. Well, this is an extraordinary happening for Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and I'm sure the devotees that were accompanying Prabhupada and who were his, let's say, most advanced disciples were also very surprised that here's a completely new person, very young, and Prabhupada is giving him this very big responsibility: translate his books, and we're talking about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Nectar Devotion and Isha Upanishad and so many other books, eventually Chaitanya Charitamrita, into Bengali. This is like a huge task for this very young boy. And even Bhakti Charu Maharaj was a little hesitant. How is he going to do such a noble and very challenging project? But Prabhupada says, just do it. Practice makes a man perfect. So, how did Prabhupada recognize these qualities in this young boy? Well, he had a need. He says, without Indian devotees, rural preaching cannot be effective. And he said that, anyway, how to gather Indian devotees, that program is wanting. So Prabhupada was very glad to see a person like Bhakti Charu Maharaj, educated and literate and knows Bengali, knows Hindi, and knows English very well. He immediately recognized his potential, and he gave him a huge responsibility. This is one reason why he named the book The Ocean of Mercy. He says, I had to pinch myself to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I couldn't believe my good fortune. Yeah, here's a Mahabhagavat pure devotee of Krishna who recognizes the potential of this young boy and gives him a life occupation of translating his books. And not only that, he's going to take him under his wing and personally instruct him in Krishna consciousness. You see, it's not only that he's accepting him later on as a disciple, but he's personally training him how to apply the Acharya's philosophy and translate it into Bengali, and at the same time learn it in depth with the guidance of the Mahabhagavat devotee, Srila Prabhupada. Very exceptional. And that's why he named his book, or one reason why he named his book, The Ocean of Mercy. So not so far after that, a few days later after they arrived in Calcutta, Bhakti Charu Maharaj writes, Srila Prabhupada's stay in Calcutta was extremely busy. He knew a lot of people there, and many of them came to see him. One afternoon, a few reporters came to interview him, appreciative of his achievements in the West. Srila Prabhupada said one, what you have done is unprecedented. Never in history has such a thing happened. Within such a short time, a spiritual movement has spread all over the world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread this movement only throughout India, but you have spread it all over the world. No, Srila Prabhupada replied. What I have done is simply due to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and my Guru Maharaja. They have actually done everything. They simply let me have the credit. Now this is the genuine humility of a pure devotee. And these are amazing statements that Prabhupada is making. So a normal person would be gloating in their praise like this. But Prabhupada immediately stops any, let's say, any hint of self-glory and gives all the credit to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. This is the sign of a pure devotee, someone who is not interested in their own aggrandizement, their own glorification, but who are always conscious of what they have received out of mercy from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and from their Guru Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada was still meeting with several important people near the end of the long day. When the evening arti began and he requested that they go to the temple room for worship, I left along with the others. But then it occurred to me that although I could attend the arti every day, I would not always have the opportunity to be with His Divine Grace. So I returned to his room. As I carefully opened his door, Prabhupada looked up and asked, "So, what do you want?" "Srila Prabhupada," I replied, "I just want to be with you." Prabhupada replied, "Then come in." When I had entered and sat down, he repeated, "So, what do you want?" My heart was pounding. "Srila Prabhupada," I managed to say, "will you please give me initiation? Will you please accept me as your disciple? Sure, Prabhupada replied, I will give you initiation. During the Gaura Purnima festival in Mayapur, I will give you initiation. With my heart dancing in gratitude and ecstasy, I offered my humble obeisances to my eternal spiritual master. So, my heart pounding in gratitude and ecstasy. We can see what a life-changing moment that was for Bhakti Charu Maharaj, where instead of going to the arati, which he will always be able to do and which he always did attend, he wanted to have the personal association of Prabhupada, and because he had been given such a preferential and important duty to translate Prabhupada's books, he ventured back to talk to Prabhupada in private and asked him directly for initiation, and Prabhupada immediately accepted. Well, this was Prabhupada's, like I said, his yearning to gather Indian devotees. And he said that program is wanting. So now the mercy that Prabhupada is showing Bhakti Charu Maharaj is incredible. And we can see, again, why he has named his book An Ocean of Mercy. So, these are the very, let's say, intense, wonderful early days in Bhakti Charu Maharaj's encounter with Srila Prabhupada, and the very quick, what you would call stellar and astronomical elevation that he received by the direct mercy of Srila Prabhupada. There's such a thing called there's Nitya Siddha, Sadhana Siddha, and Kripa Siddha. 3 ways that one is eternally a transcendental, liberated person. And this Kripa Siddha is amazing, because even though one may not deserve, or one may not have the qualifications to be so close to a pure devotee, still by the mercy of the pure devotee, which is unfathomable, which is, you could say it's pure and and only pure love, out of pure love and dedication to helping people out of the mire of material existence. Prabhupada showers this on Bhakti Charu Maharaj, recognizing his potential. So, another interesting point, adding to why he named this Ocean of Mercy. So, Bhakti Charu Maharaj actually is initiated. And it says the initiation took place on the morning of Gaura Purnima. More than 100 devotees sat around the sacrificial fire. Srila Prabhupada did not come down to the temple room, but a few sannyasis sat on a dais, called the candidates one by one, and heard our vows to follow the 4 regulative principles of not eating meat, taking intoxication, indulging in illicit sex, or gambling. We also promised to chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on beads every day. One of the sannyasis, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, would then give the candidate a string of chanting beads and announce his spiritual name, which Srila Prabhupada had chosen. Each name was met with loud applause and the beating of a mridanga, or beating of mridangas. When my turn came, Achyutananda Swami presided over my vows and announced my name, Shira Chora Gopinatha Dasa. The name indicated that I was the servant of Lord Gopinatha who stole Shira, condensed milk, for his devotee Madhavendra Puri. The deity of Gopinatha was in Ramuna, Orissa. Madhavendra Puri, the great devotee who had unearthed the deity of Gopala in Vrindavana and installed him on top of the Govardhana hill, had been told by Sri Gopala that because the heat of the summer was causing him great discomfort, he wanted Madhavendra to get some sandalwood and camphor and apply them to his body to keep him cool. So Madhavendra Puri went to Orissa, that's like thousands of miles away, and it was not a journey without peril, because he had to pass through different Muslim kingdoms and sometimes very difficult terrain like jungle and so forth. So Madhavendra Puri went to Orissa and begged those valuable articles from the king. On the way, he stopped at, because in other words, the sandalwood pulp, camphor, and other, let's say, precious commodities were very expensive at that time. Camphor nowadays is not so expensive, but sandalwood is still very expensive. But it was even more so at that time. And only kings could afford them, so he had to beg the king of Orissa. On the way, he stopped at Ramuna to have darshan of Gopinatha. In the temple, Madhavendra Puri recalled that the Shira, the temple priests offered to Gopinatha, this milk preparation, was famous for its flavor, and he considered that if he could taste it, he would be able to prepare it for his Gopala as well. Right after the thought flashed across his mind, however, he realized that he had desired to taste the Shira even before it had been offered to Lord Gopinath. He felt extremely guilty, and he left the temple and retired for the night in a deserted village marketplace nearby. When Gopinatha's pujari took rest that night, he had a dream that Gopinatha was telling him to go to that marketplace and give Madhavendra Puri some Shira. The pujari told Gopinatha that all the Shira had already been distributed, but Gopinatha said that he had kept aside a pot of Shira underneath his dhoti. So the pujari bathed and went to the temple, and there, to his utter amazement, he found the pot of Shira behind Gopinatha's dhoti. For from then on, Gopinatha Ramuna was known as Shira Chora Gopinatha. Gopinatha, the thief who stole the pot of Shira, or condensed type of milk preparation. Now, Bhakti Charu Maharaj says, I was very happy to have the name. It sounded like celestial music to my ears, and I was filled with gratitude that Srila Prabhupada had so mercifully made me a servant of Shira Chora Gopinatha. So mercifully, right? During the fire sacrifice, as I was offering grains to the fire and chanting Swaha, I felt that I was offering Krishna everything I possessed. But then it occurred to me that I did not really possess anything. All I had, all that was worthwhile to offer, was myself. So that was what I offered. Srila Prabhupada's voice echoed in my head. For many, many lifetimes, you are trying to enjoy, but you can see that you are still not satisfied. Just offer this life to Krishna. After initiation, I had to attend to Srila Prabhupada, so I did not have a chance to go out and collect Guru Dakshina, the monetary gift for one's Guru after initiation. In the evening, when the newly initiated devotees came to his room and each offered his Guru Dakshina, I regretted that I had not collected anything for him. When everyone left, I was alone with Prabhupada, my heart filled with remorse. Srila Prabhupada, I said to him, you gave me Diksha, but I did not offer you any Guru Dakshina. Prabhupada replied, you offered yourself, That is the best Guru Dakshina, he assured me. I offered my obeisances and said, Srila Prabhupada, I am offering myself to you completely. Please accept me and utilize me in whatever way you want. So this is the defining moment in Bhakti Charu Maharaj's life, where not only is he initiated, but he realizes that he is destitute in the sense that he has no material assets such as money, etc. But he does have one asset. He has his soul, and he has a potential of a lifetime of service to his Guru and to Krishna. So he, like in the history of Vamana Dev, the king, after losing everything to Vamana Dev, he offers himself. He wants the Lord to put his lotus feet on his head and accept him as an offering. So here Bhakti Charu Maharaj also offers himself completely to Prabhupada, and he says, please accept me and utilize me in whatever way you want. So we cannot in any way ignore the fact that he received in a real way and received throughout his whole life an ocean of mercy from Srila Prabhupada, as any devotee who surrendered to Srila Prabhupada experienced also. That Prabhupada's acceptance of a person as his disciple is accepting an ocean of mercy that is an unending flow of mercy from the spiritual master to the disciple in the form of his instructions, through his books, through his ISKCON, wonderful ISKCON movement, through association with other very sincere devotees, and through constant hearing and chanting. And of course, the greatest mercy is receiving the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is one's, let's say, vehicle by which one can go back to Godhead, or one's most important asset for connecting to Krishna on an everyday, every minute basis, and being freed from the influence of illusion or Maya. So this is a very quick transformation for Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And other devotees watching this, like Bhavananda Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and others, they're surprised but happy also that this young boy is receiving so much mercy from Srila Prabhupada. So now we're going to see how Prabhupada just continues showering his mercy on Bhakti Charu Maharaj by personally training him in Krishna consciousness. Maharaj writes, one morning after I had taken dictation from Srila Prabhupada, because he was given also the responsibility of answering people's letters that were written to Prabhupada in Bengali. One morning after I had taken dictation from Srila Prabhupada, what's that dictation? Prabhupada is telling him how to answer these different letters that he's receiving. And had him sign the completed letters, he told me. So in other words, Bhakti Charu Maharaj would read the letter to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada would tell him what points to make. He would go and compose or write the letter with the points Prabhupada made. He would come back and read the letter, and Prabhupada would give further corrections, or he would say, okay, and he would sign the letter, and then Bhakti Charu would send it. And at that time, there were no Bengali typewriters, so he had to do all this by hand. One morning after I had taken dictation from Srila Prabhupada and had him sign the completed letters, he told me, I am appointing you as my secretary for Indian affairs." I was surprised, to say the least. I had been told that Prabhupada appointed only his most intimate and efficient associates as his secretaries, but I was just a new devotee, and he was giving me the most important assignment in his service. I felt both incredible joy and overwhelming gratitude. So you see, he keeps using these two words, is joy or ecstasy and gratitude. This is the sign of a pure-hearted person, a person who is able to recognize the mercy he's receiving by his gratitude, and it makes him joyful. Srila Prabhupada called Tamal Krishna Maharaj, told him about the new appointment, and it suggested that I move into the secretary's room where Maharaja was staying. Tamal Krishna put an affectionate hand on my shoulder and said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada," and took me to the room 2 doors down. The room next to Prabhupada's was to have been his secretary's room, but the typewriter had made too much noise, so Prabhupada had suggested that his servant move in, and his secretary take the room next door. There were 2 beds. Maharaja said I could use the one at the far end of the room and told me to fetch my belongings. So now, not only is he a secretary for Indian affairs, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was a secretary for, let's say, the rest of the world affairs, and then, of course, right next to Prabhupada is the room of Prabhupada's personal servant. So now he's in the very closest proximity to Srila Prabhupada on a daily basis. And also, he has so many big responsibilities now to translate Prabhupada's books, to answer his letters in Bengali, and soon also in Hindi. And that means that he's going to be constantly engaged in interactions with Srila Prabhupada, through which he's going to be also trained personally by Srila Prabhupada. And not only that, now he has the intimate association of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who is probably one of the most prominent devotees in the whole movement, and who is a trainer himself, who Tamal Krishna Maharaj made many persons into devotees by training them in Sankirtan and surrender to Srila Prabhupada in appreciation of Prabhupada's mercy. So this is an exceptional thing for someone like Bhakti Charu Maharaj. When I informed my dear friend and roommate, Tirthapada, he was at first silent. Then he told me that he had always felt that I was very special, and he embraced me and thanked me for my association as his roommate. I could see that he was feeling bad, and I knew that I too would miss our time together. It was quite an experience to be so close to Tamal Krishna Maharaja. Although we were sharing a room, I still held him in great reverence. In fact, he commanded this kind of respect from practically everyone in ISKCON, but he treated me with warmth and affection. I would bow down to him, and he would embrace me. He had been my hero even before I had met him, and this closeness was like a dream, one that I had never imagined would come true. Maharaja got up very early each morning, but he refrained from switching on the light so as not to disturb me. When he was in the bathroom, however, he would play tapes of Srila Prabhupada's lectures, and that would inevitably wake me up. I would just lie in bed listening to Prabhupada's transcendental voice until Maharaja was done, at which time I would rise and get ready for the day. Maharaja was extremely regulated and organized, waking up every day at 3, bathing, and then chanting his rounds. He would finish all his rounds and be ready to serve Srila Prabhupada by dawn. He organized me also, insisting that I have a specific time for translating, replying to Prabhupada's letters, and attending to his divine grace by just being around him in case he needed anything, making sure that I always had enough time to work on translating Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita into Bengali. Rooming with Maharaja was one of my most memorable experiences in ISKCON. He always treated me lovingly, and he trained me expertly to serve Srila Prabhupada at the highest standard I could manage. In his presence, I was constantly learning new and important things about Krishna consciousness and serving Srila Prabhupada. Because of his seniority, I wanted to serve him too, but he always refused. Whenever I tried to serve him prasada, he would insist on me taking prasada with him. If a devotee serving him made a mistake, he would get upset and chastise him, but he never chastised me. When I related my experience to Bhavananda Maharaj, he commented with a smile, "You are fortunate." Tamal is known for his temper. That's why he's called Hot Tamale. Anyway, I can see that he has accepted you as his man. That is Tamal. When he likes somebody, he'll do anything for him, and you are one of those fortunate souls who has won his favor. I was delighted to hear this and told him, "You are also one of those fortunate souls." I noticed what a deep friendship you have with him. Maharaja, he's talking about Bhavananda Maharaj, smiled and said, "Yes, that's true. We developed a deep friendship from the first time we met. He is a real person with a golden heart. That's why Srila Prabhupada loves him so much." Later, Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me that he had grown up in Harlem, a rough neighborhood in New York City, where he had often had to confront the local gangs, and that this upbringing had forced him to become tough. But I also saw how tender and loving a person he was, and the way he served Srila Prabhupada was an incredible example. I could see how much confidence Prabhupada had in him and how much he depended upon him. Well, now we're saying that not only has Prabhupada's intimate association and instruction, but he has also the instruction of Bhavananda Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and others, personal and, let's say, exalted associates or servants of Srila Prabhupada. So he's being trained by Prabhupada's intimate servants as well as Prabhupada himself. This is incredible mercy, incredible ocean of mercy that's inundating Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Harisori Prabhu had also come from a rough environment. My first impression of him was that he was somewhat reserved and not so friendly. Although we used to see each other quite frequently, I did not try to communicate with him beyond cordial smiles. Eventually, however, I came to see that he was just fixed in his service to Prabhupada and did not speak much unless there was a need. And as I became more involved in serving Prabhupada, we started to communicate more freely. So, and now he says, one morning, Harisori asked me if I knew how to cook. Not thinking much about it, I replied that yes, I did. The next thing I knew, he had reported my ability to Srila Prabhupada, and soon afterwards, he told me that Prabhupada wanted me to cook for him. But although I had told Harisori that I knew how to cook, I didn't think I was really good enough to cook for Prabhupada. When I was in Germany, I had cooked once in a while, but I knew that one had to be an expert, which I was not. I was stuck, totally perplexed. I did not know what to do. Then I had an idea. Srila Prabhupada's sister, Pishima, was there, and I had heard that she was one of the best cooks in the world, and that she loved to cook for her brother. So I went to Pishima and told her the situation. She assured me that I should not worry, and straight away went to the kitchen and started to cook. I just stood there watching. She did not let me touch a single thing. When it was time to serve, she prepared the plate, and it looked really gorgeous. with many expertly cooked preparations. I happily took it to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada took one look at the plate and asked me who had cooked. From the tone of his voice, I could tell that he was not happy. Pishima, Srila Prabhupada, I replied. Did I ask you to cook or Pishima to cook? He asked. Then he told me to take the plate away. Trembling with fear and laden with guilt, I appealed to him. Please, Srila Prabhupada, I made a mistake. I'll never do it again. And I just stood there, wanting nothing else than to fall at his feet and beg for forgiveness, though I did not dare. He eventually became pacified, but I had lost a golden opportunity. Still, I continued to serve Prabhupada, and he was pleased with how I was replying to his letters. I was translating every day and reading the translation aloud to him, and he would make any corrections. The cooking incident, however, still weighed on my mind. I had come so close to getting that wonderful service, but had missed it due to my immaturity. I resolved that I would learn to cook so that if the opportunity ever again presented itself, I would not fail. So then again, he writes, so this chastisement, let's say, from Prabhupada is also his mercy. Bhakti Charu Mahraj learned that when a spiritual master gives you a direct order, you have to follow it. You can't transfer that order to someone else and ask them to do it. If he asks you to do it, you must do it. And even if you don't feel qualified, you must try your best. Okay, so one evening I was in Srila Prabhupada's quarters chanting while he was in his bedroom. I was chanting quite loudly, as if Prabhupada would be pleased to hear me. After a little while, however, he called me in and told me, "Don't chant so loudly." I felt guilty and embarrassed, and from then on, whenever I was near Prabhupada, I would chant very, very softly. A few days later, sitting alone in front of Prabhupada while he was leaning on his bolster and chanting on his beads, I asked, Srila Prabhupada, can I learn Sanskrit? He sat up straight and asked, why do you want to learn Sanskrit? I thought for a moment and said, in order to understand the scriptures properly, to get closer to Vedic culture, and Prabhupada cut me short. There is no use, he said. Our business is not to become a pandita. Our business is to become a devotee. Our business is to serve Krishna. There are so many Sanskrit scholars, but what are they doing? Are they promoting Vedic culture and wisdom of the Vedas? No. They are not doing anything useful. What is really needed is to preach Krishna consciousness. And to do that, you don't need to learn Sanskrit. You don't need to learn anything besides who Krishna is and what is your relationship with him. Then he added, just read my books and you will learn Sanskrit. Now, this is amazing because the tendency is of people to try and become expert in the original language of the Vedas so that they can interpret them. And Prabhupada didn't want that. He didn't want our devotees to become grammarians or Sanskrit experts and begin to interpret what they were reading in the original script, because the Vedic knowledge is something that's revealed through the heart. The super soul is in the heart, Paramatma, and all knowledge comes from the super soul. Sarva Shichaham Hidi Sanivisto Matak Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarveraham Eva Vedya Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham. So basically, Prabhupada was instructing Bhakti Charu Maharaj that this knowledge is not academic. This Vedic knowledge, this Shastric knowledge is not academic. It's not something assimilated simply by study or writing papers and engaging in hermeneutical interpretation based on very strict, let's say, criterions. It's something that's realized on the basis of surrender to Krishna. So Krishna says, Ye tamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mamavart manavartante manusya partha sarvasaha. As my devotee surrenders unto me, I proportionately reveal myself to him. So our understanding of the Vedic knowledge is in proportion to our surrender to the Supreme Lord through the instructions and guidance of bona fide spiritual masters, Sikhs and Diksha Gurus. So this is the process of knowledge. It's completely different than the academic process. And Prabhupada is teaching or taught this to Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He says, our business is not to become a pandita. Our business is to become a devotee. Our business is to serve Krishna. There are so many Sanskrit scholars, but what are they doing? Are they promoting Vedic culture and wisdom of the Vedas? No. They are not doing anything useful. What is really needed is to preach Krishna consciousness. And to do that, you don't need to learn Sanskrit. You don't need to learn anything besides who Krishna is and what is your relationship with him. Then he added, just read my books and you will learn Sanskrit. So this is an extremely important instruction. This is extreme ocean of mercy for Bhakti Charu Maharaj. We're not supposed to become intellectual bookworms. We're supposed to become pure devotees. And knowledge does not depend on academic achievement. It depends on purity of one's service and the development of service for Krishna and development of love for Guru and Krishna. In that way, knowledge is revealed to us. This is revelation theology. It is not academic theology. So we have to learn what is the way to actually acquire knowledge. Knowledge means knowing Krishna and knowing our relationship with Krishna. Knowing Krishna is not a simple thing, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has many mutually contradictory qualities, and an academic is confused because academics are supposed to be rational. They're supposed to be logical. They're supposed to base their knowledge on observation and recognition of patterns, and then based on the patterns that they see, coming up with theories, and then testing their theories. And if those theories are more than 50%, let's say, accurate, it becomes a scientific theory, but still a theory, and so forth. They're using mostly the inductive process, observation, experimentation, collecting a lot of information, and then recognizing patterns in that information, and so forth. But that is not leading to perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge is Sabda Brahma, accepting the statements of Krishna and the Acharyas, and then following their path. Mahajana Yenagata Sapanta. That is the process of knowledge. Why? Because this confidential knowledge of Krishna is hidden in the hearts of pure devotees. And the only way we can understand it is not through academic study, but by following the example established by pure devotees and learning from their behavior how to be a devotee. Behavior and words. So, he says, and to do that, he said, what is really needed is to preach Krishna consciousness. And to do that, you don't need to learn Sanskrit. You don't need to learn anything besides who is Krishna, or besides who Krishna is, and what is your relationship with him. Then he added, just read my books and you will learn Sanskrit. So not only was Bhakti Charu Swami Mahraj going to read Prabhupada's books, but he was going to translate them all into the Bengali language, which means he had to consider every word. And we'll see, Prabhupada also has a quote that I've read before, where he was considering every word while translating from the original Sanskrit to English. And he says, and I read this before, but I'll read it again. He says that he says, there are two kinds of men, Dhira and Adhira. The modern education is producing only the Adhira class, who are neither sober or educated. Dhira means a sober person. Why are they sober? Because they understand who Krishna is, they understand what is the material nature and how it should be used in Krishna's service. They understand the spiritual nature, the spiritual world, and the transcendental life of pure love and devotion to Krishna. And they understand that Krishna is the origin of everything. He is present in everything as the Paramatma, everything in the material world as Paramatma. He's present everywhere in the spiritual world. In his expansion, Balaram, and the first Chaturvyuha, and the second Chaturvyuha, and Narayana. And he's present everywhere in the material world as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shiradakshay Vishnu. And everything is contained, everything in material is contained within him in Virat Rupa form. So therefore, Krishna is the origin of everything. He's the maintainer of everything, and everything is situated within him, and he is present in this mysterious way in every atom and of material creation and in the heart of every living entity. So, if we can understand Krishna and at the same time his mutually contradictory qualities, he's very far away but yet is very near. He is all-pervading but yet he's always in Goloka Vrindavan and Vaikuntha and etc. Things that are impossible for normal people. Therefore, normal scholars, even if they hear these things, they don't believe it because everything is judged based on the imperfect human experience, and they reject the supernatural nature of Krishna. And, so we see here, he says, therefore the majority of the population cannot understand how the soul is transmigrating from one body to another. They are only interested in wine and women under the impression of the bodily concept of life. Therefore, out of so many scientists in this country, only you, he's talking to Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, and a few others are understanding the importance of this subject matter. Manushyanam sahasresu. So this is a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Out of many thousands of people, one may try for perfection, and out of thousands and thousands of those who achieve perfection, only one may know me in truth. So please work very hard, following our rules and regulations, and you will always remain in the fire of Krishna consciousness. So that is an important instruction. But yet, Prabhupada also has written, he says, but I must now remind you, he's talking to his GBC men, that I have to complete the translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the greatest contribution. Our books have given us a respectable position. People have no faith in this church or temple worship. Those days are gone. Of course, we have to maintain the temples as it is necessary to keep our spirits high. Simply intellectualism will not do. There must be practical purification. So I request you," he's speaking to the GBC men, "to relieve me of management responsibilities more and more so that I can complete the Srimad Bhagavatam translation. If I am always having to manage, then I cannot do my work on the books. It is document. In other words, it's going to be there for forever, or at least 10,000 years, and therefore he says, I have to choose each word very soberly. And if I have to think of management, then I cannot do this. I cannot be like these rascals who present something mental concoction to cheat the public. So this task will not be finished without the cooperation of my appointed assistants, the GBC, temple presidents, and sannyasis. I have chosen my best men to be GBC, and I do not want that the GBC should be disrespectful to the temple presidents. You can naturally consult me, but if the basic principle is weak, how will things go on? So please assist me in the management so that I can be free to finish the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will be our lasting contribution to the world. So, he is given the responsibility of Bhakti Charu Maharaj to translate all his books into Bengali. He has made Bhakti Charu Maharaj his personal secretary for Indian affairs, and he's just showering Bhakti Charu Maharaj with mercy. What is mercy? Prabhupada once wrote me a letter, and he said that if you receive more service responsibilities, take it as the personal mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and never give up doing your duties. So we say that through Prabhupada, Bhakti Charu Maharaj was receiving on a very, very intense and concentrated way the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Pramapadayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chase Namo Namaha. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and he is an ocean of mercy. He's the most munificent of all incarnations of the Lord. He doesn't even ask a person to surrender to him. He just says, please chant Hare Krishna. And you will get all auspiciousness in your life. So, this very important concept, most important concept in Krishna consciousness is that you acquire knowledge of Krishna by surrendering to Krishna through the instructions of Guru and Krishna, and then you don't need to be a pundit, you don't need to be an intellectual, you become a pure devotee. That is what is needed. So, these are the reasons why he entitled his book Ocean of Mercy. He received himself an ocean of mercy from Srila Prabhupada, and he became himself a distributor of this ocean of mercy, as is validated by all the glorification that Bhakti Charu Maharaj is receiving now that he has left his body. So many devotees, and all very prominent devotees, are writing tremendous testament to his loving, gentle, and bona fide, affectionate nature that he exhibited to all people that he met, because he is a great ambassador of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one of the greatest in our movement. There are a few people that actually have the stature of sainthood in ISKCON, and and they are becoming manifest more and more. But Bhakti Charu is one of the stellar stars of that sainthood in our movement. So thank you very much. We'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol. Glories to Bhakti Charu Maharaj. Ki Jai. Oh, good. Good, good, good.